Everyone loves a good story, and today we're going to talk about the power of our testimonies, because when God works in our lives, it isn't with just us in mind. He has given us stories to pass on.
Christian faith stories are powerful tools too. About 70% of people in our society claim to have had a spiritual experience of some kind. And from global statistics on religion, 95% of people believe in the spiritual realm. So while many people might not be ready to put their faith in this God who is over all things, most of them are interested in our stories.
And the real power of Christian stories is the way our experiences of God have changed our lives so much, as well as just how many of these stories there are. In churches everywhere, there are stories of marriages healed, addictions defeated, depressions lifted, and hope found. And all of these are a powerful resource if we can get them known.
For some simple points, our testimonies relate because they are personal stories about real life challenges.
They can't be argued with because they're our stories.
They are also interesting and memorable, potentially being in a person's thoughts for a few weeks later.
And they are evidence because we're not just talking about an initial experience, but about the much longer term changes God works in our lives, which is what makes Christian testimony so amazing.
To put it differently, our testimonies are the product reports of a happy customer. And as every marketing person on the planet can tell you, you can't beat a happy customer report.
For example, I know this guy, Dave, who came from a family that because of its challenges left him with anxieties. Feeling the world wasn't a safe place, just surviving each day. But then his mum became a Christian, and it was like sunshine entered into her eyes. So he said, I need what she's got, and he was only 11 years old. But as God touched his heart, he knew he was loved, found confidence for life, and has lived in that confidence and emotional freedom ever since, eh, Dave?
I have a friend whose mum died, and then his dad left because he was struggling. So at 11 years of age, he was already providing for his younger siblings alone. So he actually stole things to provide. Hey, Raki. A little bit later, his neighbour's mum was a Christian, and she said, hey, Raki, there are some things in your life that aren't quite right, eh? And long story short, he became a Christian, and he was amazingly changed by this. He's lived a life since then trying to serve others, including a stable marriage and an amazing family. Hey, bro.
Awesome.
And what do stories like this achieve? They are evidence that inspires faith that God is still at work in people's lives today. Now, regarding what we might share in a testimony, very simply, what you were like before God worked in your life. Secondly, what happened? Where and how did God come into that picture? And finally, what changed as a result? And if we keep it simple, honest and brief, a testimony could be told in just 2 to 3 minutes, which is as long as you want any story to go in a conversation.
Now, some people feel they really don't have much of a story. What then?
Well, if that's you, maybe you could think more broadly about the things God has done in your life and talk about that. Because we've all probably got a number of stories we could tell, and the key question in a conversation is, what will be the most relevant to this person?
For me, even though I grew up in a Christian home, name-calling, bullying, and how other people viewed me shaped many of my beliefs about who I was. I went to church and I said prayers, but whenever I was asked to share my testimony, I would freeze. What had God done in my life? Was this real or just our culture's religion? Then, at age 14, I decided to change that. I recommitted my life to God to make this faith my own. And this led me to finding out what it truly meant to be loved by God, changing how I viewed myself and the world. I now measure myself by how God sees me, and I wouldn't want it any other way.
And that's all that a testimony is. A simple, honest story.
Yeah. A product report from a happy customer.
So, what are the 1 or 2 main stories from your faith journey that tell of how God has worked in your life and might relate to people and encourage them to look up?
And how could you tell those stories briefly, yet with the details needed for them to make sense?
Because that's all a testimony is. It's a product report, and the hope it brings could go on to change someone's life.